Well, as I said earlier, I'm Kim Hansel, the editor of Fostering Families Today. We are a bi-monthly publication dedicated to educating foster, adoptive, and kinship families around the country about all the things that they need to know to better support the children in their care. So we're super excited to have you all here today. Let's flip to the next slide. You can find us in different social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also find us on our website at fosteringfamiliestoday.com. And now I'm going to hand it over to Raquel to tell us a little bit about Fostering Media Connections Youth Voice Program.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hope you can hear me. My name is Raquel Wilson. I am the proud program manager for the Youth Voice Program. We have been established since 2016. I have been with the organization for almost 2 years. And we basically are a program for youth by foster youth. I'm a former foster youth, and I'm just here to dedicate my services and support to help other foster youth, creatively express themselves and their experiences that they had through, different types of opportunities, whether it be workshops, through our powerful webinars, through our writing opportunities. And so if you are a former foster youth out there interested in, being a part of an organization, being a part of an organization that is for you, for foster youth by foster youth, then I'll drop my email in the chat. Thank you so much, Kim, for having me today.
Thanks, Raquel. I'm super excited. We have a number of panelists here with lived experience in the foster care system. So I'm just going to give you a little brief introduction to all of them. You've met Raquel. She's our program manager for our Youth Voice program and a former foster youth from Compton, California. She has been an advocate for youth affected by the foster care system, youth justice system, homelessness, and coined at risk. She has dedicated more than 10 years to empowering youth and helping them develop personally and professionally. She earned a master's degree in grant writing, management, and evaluations, as well as an MBA in nonprofit management from Concordia University in Chicago. Jessica Castillo, she joins us from Los Angeles and was in foster care from age 12 to 16. She was adopted at 16, but a year later, the family changed their mind and Jessica experienced homelessness for a few months while she worked and graduated high school. She's currently attending East Los Angeles College, pursuing an associate's degree, and recently released her first book, Trash Bag of Memories. Thanks, Jessica, for joining us. We have Tamar Sebesta, who is currently in pursuit of an associate's degree in political science, communication, psychology, and liberal arts. She's an active member on campus programs such as Guardian Scholars, EOPS Care, the speech and debate team, as well as 2 honor societies. She has experience in digital marketing and an emphasis in journalism. She's passionate about self-advocacy and social injustices. Tamar uses her voice to uplift others with their story. She's also a current intern with us at Fostering Media in our Youth Voice program. And Daniel Biswano, I hope he joins us. He's trying to do double duty, as many former foster youth do. So he's on set and hoping he can step away for a few minutes to join us. But he is 25 years old and works in both the creative and policy worlds. His ultimate goal in life is to help people like him get on the big screen and break the stigmas associated with being gay and formerly incarcerated. And I think he stepped in right as the perfect time. So I appreciate all of these young people joining us today to have this conversation. I was going to start by just having each of you give us just a quick background on your foster care experience, just so people have an idea of when you were in foster care and like how many different places you lived. Raquel, I'll start with you.
Okay, perfect. I love this question. And so I was in foster care from the age 5 to 8, and then I went back to care from 14 until I emancipated the week after my 18th birthday. I lived in 33 foster homes. I lived in 5 group homes. And that's 2 like group home facilities with like different group homes on it. I have experienced the juvenile justice. I have been in juvenile hall. and experienced homelessness while I was in foster care too as well. So thank you. It means a lot to be here.
Thanks, Raquel. Jessica?
Well, I was in foster care in Los Angeles from 12 to 16, like you said. I lived with my biological parents, my mom and dad, until I was 12. And then I was adopted at 16, kicked out at 17, and I was in about 5 homes in the span of time that I was in foster care. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I can go on tangents, so I'm just gonna leave it there. That's pretty much, you kind of covered it already. So
Perfect. Tamar?
Hi, I'm Tamar. I entered foster care when I was 8 and I exited when I was 12 and was placed back with my father. I was taken from my mom actually on Christmas Day when I was 8. And it was really crazy for me personally because I didn't really know my dad growing up. And then my mom's an addict. So when I was placed back with a parent that I never met, it was a very big adjustment. I went to a private school and it was really crazy because when I was put into foster care, the school actually sent out like a mass email to all the people in my grade to try to find somewhere to put me. So I remember when a family did take me in for the time that I was in care, it was really hard and lots of shame was associated with that. So I've kind of like a different sort of story with it. But yeah, that was when I was there and it was really rough patch. So the holidays for me can get kind of tough. But yeah, hi guys.
Thanks, Tamar. I think Daniel had to step away for a minute, but he said he'll be back. So my first question is, what really stands out in your mind about what it was like being in foster care during the holidays? And Tamar, I'll start with you.
For me, it was definitely really rough. I actually kind of blocked it out that when I got taken in a lot of the years that I was kind of going through all that. And it wasn't until this webinar actually that I really was thinking about what I was going to say about it. And I realized like, oh my gosh, like I actually was taken from my parent on like Christmas. And I never really associated like why the holidays were so hard for me. And I kind of reflected back on that, like it's definitely because of that. It was definitely hard being with a family that also went to the same school as me and having to see like how their like family would spend Christmas. And then I was just kind of like there. I felt like a burden and I felt a lot of shame and embarrassment, especially because after I was placed back with my father, I still went to that school. So it was kind of hard. Like people knew everything about me. And like during the holidays, it's all about being uplifting and happy and having this like face on like, oh, like, yay, everyone's excited. They're going to get presents and all of that. And I just like felt embarrassed and awkward. And I just didn't feel like, I didn't know where to go. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. And before I was even taken, like I was in court off and on between my parents. And I remember just like a lot of hurt around Christmas and a lot of pain. And I have a son now. So it's hard for me to like not put that on him in a way. Cause it's like, I'm trying every day to like make it like he doesn't have to go through that, but I'm still freshly kind of working through those difficulties that I experienced. So it's definitely like a work in progress. And every year I feel like it gets a little bit better. But I think that eventually once you really sit down with yourself and try to figure out what parts of you need to heal, then that's when real healing begins. I feel like blocking it out is something that I spent a lot of time doing. And the holidays is kind of a time for me to reflect now. And I feel like I've seen a lot of growth in myself.
Thanks, Tamar. I appreciate that perspective. I know the holidays there's a lot of societal pressure around the holidays too. And so I think that's definitely a challenge for a lot of people. And so I'm glad you're like working through it, so I know that's not easy. So Jessica, how about for you? What stands out in your mind about being in foster care during the holidays?
Just the heightened sense of longing, I would say. I was with my parents till I was 12. So until 12, I got to spend the holidays with them, but it was still because we didn't have a lot of money and my dad, had an alcohol problem. So he'd get drunk around the holidays. And just it was never picture perfect, even when I was with my parents. So it was awkward for me growing up with the kind of Christmases and Thanksgivings that I had to experience. And then when I was taken away, even though I didn't have like that pretty Hallmark movie Christmas with my family until I was 12, like I still missed my mom extra around the holidays. I think because everything, like stores and music and movies, everything around the holidays makes it feel cozy. And, there's nothing cozier than being with your mom. That's what I thought. So I missed her so much. And I know my foster parents got really frustrated with me because I had a hard time meshing in with their holiday like traditions and things like that. I know I became really withdrawn on Christmas, and it was just met with a lot of frustration. So I think what stands out to me the most is just how extra everything feels, around the holidays. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. That societal pressure to make everything be perfect, and life isn't always perfect. So I definitely understand. I hear what you're saying, for sure. Raquel, how about for you?
I think the biggest thing that comes to mind with me, and the crazy part is that I didn't know that like my foster parents were like getting money for me. So like I went like ate Christmas without gifts, watching like their kids open up presents on Christmas Day while I like sit in the background. So Jessica, I definitely hear you loud and clear when you said you kind of felt like a burden, because that's literally how it feels kind of waking up as a foster youth in a family where there's other biological children, and they like, got all of these lavish gifts and the things that they actually want. And then it's probably like this one little card or like this nothing. And so like, I remember there was a Christmas where it was like my foster parent had bought like all of these gifts. It was so much different stuff up under the tree. I never forget. And when it came time for Christmas, it wasn't nothing under there for me. And I remember like 2 weeks later, actually seeing like a check, with my name on it, and that's how I found out that my foster parents got money for me. And I remember being so angry, like I wanted to like leave, and I actually ran away and I went back to my mom's house because I just felt like, at the end of the day, it's like, foster care, and not to, knock on anyone else's experience, but like my mom, it didn't have like a drug abuse problem. She wasn't she wasn't drinking. She worked. She took care of like our entire household. It was 9 of us in total, and it just like, when it just came down to it, it's like, she just was in a domestic violence situation. And then when it came down to it, it was like, Raquel, you got to be the one to go. Like they let all my brothers and sisters go back home except for me. And so when I think about the fact that at my mom's house and my biological family house, where they're saying that it's like all this trauma and I'm like better without, that's where I was actually enjoying Christmas. That's where we were having traditions. That's where I actually felt wanted. Versus, when I'm now in these foster homes where they're supposed to be like saving me from my mom, my parents, and this hardship that I'm having at this home, where I'm just like, I was getting physically abused, but I definitely don't feel like I would have suffered as much as stuff that like the abuse compared to the abuse that I got while I was in foster care is definitely in no comparison. And the fact that I felt more wanted at the home where they told me that I wasn't wanted, in the place that I was supposed to be saving me, that's the first thing to come to mind. So it's like, if you have foster youth, gifts are important, especially when it comes from a sense of feeling abandoned all the time, or feeling like people don't want them, or feeling worthless, especially older foster youth, because we kind of seem like it seems that we get left out of the mesh once you reach like a certain age limit after 13. It just seems like, a Christmas and celebrating Christmas and getting gifts is something that you shouldn't look forward to, because the little children are more important at the toy drives or at the giveaways. And so that's one of the first things that comes to my mind.
Sure. Yeah. I think there is a lot of emphasis on the little kids, and teenagers are often, forgotten in some of those things too. So for sure. Thanks for sharing. I know that you guys just kind of talked about kind of an overview, but is there something like what you feel like was really the hardest part of being in foster care during the holidays? Was there something else that kind of stands out? And whoever, if you want to jump to it, just go for it.
For me, I think that the hardest part was definitely just kind of the transition, I guess. like same for me as well. I didn't have a good holiday experience with my family even before all that happened. My mom is an addict and she is schizophrenic and bipolar. So she would self medicate herself. And then my dad is also an alcoholic and he's emotionally loud. He's not physically abusive, but he's very like, you know. So it was definitely holidays for me as a kid were just always screaming and fighting. And like the police like knew our house. It was like that whole thing. And just kind of going from that and already not having a perfect image of what a Christmas should look like and like holidays in general. So going from that to then being pushed into like this random family's house, it was definitely like I was really angry and I felt a lot of bitterness and pain. So I acted out a lot, you know, I was really angry and I got suspended a lot from school and everyone would just judge me and keep putting labels on me, but no one once asked how I was feeling. Not a single person ever cared to know like, hey, maybe it's because all this stuff happened. They kind of were just like, oh, like, man, like got all like, I don't know, judgy. I think it's definitely the environment that I was in too, but around the holidays too, I remember like being especially worse and like I never could figure out why. And definitely like I remember just like how my mom, like she would always get all this money from like the government and from my dad and like lie to everyone. And she wouldn't, even when I was with her, she wouldn't even get me presents. So then when I was put into foster care, I actually had a different experience. The family I was with, they did give me stuff and I like couldn't receive it. Like I didn't want to. I felt this weird because even my parents didn't. So then having this random family try to, it was just kind of like, it felt wrong in a way. So I remember just kind of going through that. And then once I was put back into the situation, it was just, it never got better, you know, like it's kind of crazy to think about how social workers kind of just put you, like when they place you back with your parents, they really don't even, I feel like they didn't really check to see if it was healthy because my situation never got better. It got worse in other ways, you know. So I remember just like every year I hate the holidays. It's kind of just like being around my dad around the holidays. It's just a lot of anger and bitterness. And he like blames my mom. It's like this whole thing, you know, like every year at Christmas, he always just gets so angry and he like is totally in denial. And like they both are, like my mom believes that she never did anything. And then my dad, on the other hand, like thinks she's a saint. It's like this weird, so every Christmas I'm like ready for like to relive the trauma kind of. So it's kind of like reliving trauma every single year is definitely something that sticks out to me even as an adult. And it's hard to like cut them out. It's really hard to cut out your family even when they hurt you. So that kind of thing.
So it's like it's triggering and everything. And I wanted to back up to where you were talking about you know, like the foster parents were giving you a lot of stuff and you didn't know how to receive it. I think a lot of times like that really confuses foster parents because they're like, they should be grateful. We did all this stuff for them. Their parents weren't doing those things for them and we did. And why is this like a thing? I just don't think they understand like all the conflicting feelings that youth are having. And so I really appreciate you sharing, you know, that because it is hard, I think, for people to understand, especially when it's not your lived experience, you know, like what you guys tell me gives me a big old gut punch and I don't live it, you know? And so I am just like, it just is difficult. It's you know, for other people to understand where you guys are coming from and what you're sharing. So I appreciate you vocalizing that. Did Raquel or Jessica, did you guys have anything you wanted to share that was just kind of the hardest part about being in foster care during the holidays?
Yeah, so one thing that came to my mind that I really want to like wave the red flag for is you know, like sometimes on holidays like Thanksgiving, with your foster parents or like Christmas, they'll send you to like another foster home because they're like going on like a family vacation or like a trip and they're taking their family somewhere and they kind of like don't want to take you. I've had those experiences where I had to go to another foster home or a friend's home so that I experience the holiday in a new environment with people who I don't know, where there's like nothing, you know, and so I definitely want to sign off for that because nobody actually really thinks about, you know, the traumatic, you know, impact that has on you too, you know, having to keep bouncing around all your life. And then even on the days where, you know, you should be celebrated and loved, and there should be hugs and hot chocolate and marshmallows, it's not. It's like, you know, sadness and rain, even if it's sunny outside. So and I appreciate it. And I wanted to add too, because Tamar is my intern who I adore so much, but we just was having a conversation about gifts, and it makes a lot of sense hearing, you know, us going to more background. She was telling me the other day that she didn't know how to receive gifts, and I was like, girl, no, you know, have to get out of that, you know, foster care mentality, you know, because it's like, you know, in my mind, I used to then not like to receive gifts because gifts came with somebody wanting something else from me. So it's like, oh, if, especially a male, like if a male gives you something, immediately say no, because, you know, that is like, oh, he might be trying to groom you, or like, you know, and stuff like that. And so like, that was what my back of mind was. But like, you know, working here at this organization, I was trying to tell Tamara, and I hope I made her feel good. And so in regards to like, you know, us wanting to like, you know, build team morale, and like, you know, really be there for one another and not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. So I just wanted to chime that in because we did have this conversation the other day, and just hearing her give a little bit more background about her experiences and why she feels like that, it brings a little bit more perspective. And we're going to be a little extra sensitive during the holidays for you tomorrow.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm gonna there's a couple of questions in the chat that I wanted to circle back because they were talking about being confused about the gift giving thing. So I would think one of the first things you're gonna do is you're gonna have a conversation with the youth in your care. What do they want for Christmas? What are their, you know, maybe their family didn't celebrate Christmas. What did their family do? Is there something that they need to hear? You know, like what do they want from you? You know, so have that conversation. That's where everything starts, is relationship. We have conversations with each other, and you know, give gifts. You should give gifts. I think that that's a good thing because you don't want anybody to feel left out. But I also think that this is a really good reminder that the holidays isn't about the gifts. It's about the time. It's about the things that we do together. So whether that's a pajama and hot chocolate movie night, if that is playing cards around the table, you know, those are the things that stand out in my mind, in my family, more than us sitting around and opening gifts in the morning. So, you know, I think it's remembering it's not about you, you know, having those conversations, and then, you know, making it about other experiences rather than just about the gifts, so that you can, you know, try to build that relationship with the youth in their care. So Jessica, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, I think I mean, there's a lot of things that are hard about being in foster care during the holidays, but one thing I found really difficult was so my mom, so I grew up, I didn't really get gifts because my family didn't have money, and that was fine. And then the first Christmas in foster care, my mom borrowed money from someone to get me an iPod. And I had never had something so extravagant in my whole life. I've never been the kid who got the Barbies from, you know, my mom got me a couple toys from the dollar store a couple times when I was younger, or from a thrift store, or like a fire, you know, those firefighters would give toys around Christmas to certain kids. Like I was that kid. So my mom gave me this iPod, and it was extraordinary. And I cherished it, and I wanted to protect it because it was just so incredible. And in my third foster home, like I moved right after the holidays to my third foster home. I was letting my foster sisters borrow it because I felt like I needed to let them borrow it to be accepted by them. And it was just gone, completely broken. So I think something to remember too is the presents that foster kids get from their parents. It doesn't matter what it is, like that could be all they, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's like really, it's more than just a gift from them. Like it's easy. I don't know. I just wanted to share that memory because I remember it was such a big deal to me to have that one thing, and I didn't care about anything else, what I got from anyone else. It was the fact that I got one thing from my mom that meant the most to me. So just, I guess, remember that too.
Yeah, for sure. Like we need to recognize, you know, those relationships as well during the holidays. And sometimes we have emotional connections to things that people don't put the same value on, you know, they think it's just a thing. And it's like, but there's an emotional connection to who gave it to you and why you have it and those kinds of things. So thanks for sharing that. Are there any positive things that like caregivers or social workers, you know, your foster adoptive parents did during the holidays that, you know, you remember? Raquel, how about, let's start with you.
I honestly can't say that I remember like good like holidays, like even like the one foster home that I did live in during the holidays, like during the Christmas time, I didn't even get to enjoy it because I ended up going to juvenile hall on Christmas Eve. So it's like I haven't had like good holiday Christmas. And like as a mom now, the new mom, like I've been buying Christmas gifts since September. And you know, Amazon was dropping off gifts, looking at me. I'm looking at Amazon, looking at my daughter. I don't know if I should open up one or give it to her, but it's just like as a mom now, I don't want to overcompensate, but I definitely want to make sure that my daughter has the Christmases that I wish that I did have, and not just like one or two here and there, but like throughout, like, you know, like when she's my age at 31, she'll be able to say she had good experiences during the holidays, because I sure can't say that I did.
Thanks. She's gonna remember those things, I promise. Tamar, how about you?
I guess like obviously back when I was younger, I didn't like feel this way, but now as an adult, I am thankful that my foster parents did try to give me things at the holidays. Even though I was very difficult receiving it and like being happy, I never got happy about it. I was just kind of like, you know, but I am thankful because I know so many people in that situation don't receive gifts. So as an adult, being able to look back on that, just kind of like the kind of people that they were, I think that a lot of it was like them trying to like buy my happiness, which for me is like, no, like I don't like when people do that at all. So it's kind of just like, it's like has its pros and cons, you know, but obviously like it's better that they tried something than to not do that. I don't remember anything from social workers. I think the most I ever got was like the stuffed bear. It's like the iconic bear. I don't really remember like anything else that they did that was helpful or good. I was like I said, I was very angry. So I was pretty rude to like therapists and social workers. I was like I talked back. I was very self-advocating, but not at the time. Like I had the same skills that I have now, but I was just like mad. So I definitely, I think, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially adults in my life. I had a really bad trust for authority. I kind of associated any adult as like the person who took me from my mom. So I didn't like adults. I really was just mad at them. So I think my experience too maybe could have hopefully been better, but I never had a really good one from any adult besides that family, I guess.
I appreciate, you know, like what you're sharing. I do think it's important to remind people that this stuff happens with your bio kids too. Like mine, both of them told me they hated me just the other day, you know, like, and it's not about me. I'm like, okay, I always figure when they tell me that they hate me, that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a parent and being nosy and telling them what to do, you know, and we have like a really great relationship. So you're not alone in like not respecting authority and, you know, pushing back on your caregivers. I think that's part of development is our kids push back on us, you know, they're trying to find their own way. So I know yours is definitely tied to foster care, but I do want to remind everybody that these are all parts of normal development too, is our kids are going to not always love us. It's not always going to be a perfect moment. Our kids, you know, they are little people trying to find their way, and it's our job to help them do that and to not take what they're sharing with us personally.
Yeah,
So.
can I just add really quick, like I definitely
Yeah.
want anyone that is a foster parent to know that like if you're doing all the right things, it's not that we hate you. It's just like, you know, like we're trying to go through our own stuff. So a lot of rebellion isn't always disrespect. A lot of the times it's a lot of trauma. So just being mindful and understanding the difference between trauma and like disrespect, you know what I mean? Like they're different, like understanding when someone's hurt and reacting versus being rude for no reason. So I think that remembering that stuff especially around the holidays, is very important.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Jessica, how about you? Were there any positive things that you can think of?
I think the most positive thing that my foster parents and even social workers did for me around the holidays was allowing me to see my mom. And I know I say, I talk about my mom a lot, but it's because she was my entire world. And when I got taken away from her, it was like my whole world fell apart. I didn't care that she did drugs, that she was abusive. She was my everything. So getting to see her around Christmas is what made me feel like I had the ability to cope with, the new things that I was experiencing. Because there are some foster parents who around the holidays would prefer to keep it their own little family unit. And I've had some foster sisters tell me they weren't allowed to see their family around the holidays because the foster family wanted it to be about them being connected. But I think it's important to remember that, if the foster child's parents are still trying to get them back, I think it's important to keep them active in the child's life instead of trying to push them away. So I think the best thing that happened around the holidays for me was just the fact that I got to see my mom. Nothing else was really too special about it. Like I put in the comments that like my present for Christmas, my first Christmas in foster care, I always say it was a sock full of socks because it was just a little stocking full of socks, just plain white socks. And I was like, I got a sock full of socks for Christmas. I think it's funny now, but I remember being 12 and being like, I don't need this many socks. So, and I didn't get anything for the rest of the Christmases, but I didn't care as long as I got to see my mom. So, yeah.
So Jessica, what, besides just like having visit with your family during the holidays, are there other things that you think foster parents could do that would, help honor that connection?
With biological parents?
Yeah.
Maybe, see, I know it's like hard because some foster kids are like, oh, you can have a 30-minute monitored visit with your parent a week, or others you can have overnights, and it's like different depending on what, the situation is. But maybe if foster parents themselves can like take the time to talk to the biological parent about what they can do to make the holidays easier for the parent and the child together. Like even if the parent and the child can't see each other, like even scheduling a FaceTime, or maybe helping the child make a Christmas card for their biological parent so they don't feel like they have to make it all about their foster parents. They're like, oh, this foster family is encouraging me to be loving towards my biological family. They don't see them as the bad guy, because I think a lot of times too, I felt guilty for loving my mom because everyone said she was the bad guy, but I didn't see her like that. So I felt guilty for loving her. So I think, just helping the parent develop a healthier relationship with the child and vice versa in any way that you think that can be done, I think would be helpful, especially around the holidays. You can make it a little crafty section, make some cards, could be fun.
For sure. I mean, regardless of the outcome, you are forever connected to your biological parents. So trying to build whatever safe relationship is, I think, always a good thing. So,
I think that made me feel closer, it would have made me feel closer to my foster parents too, if I didn't feel like it had to be them and then my mom. If I felt like I just had a community of people who wanted to see me succeed, instead of, okay, my mom's the bad guy, my foster parents are this, my social worker is this.
Yeah.
It just felt like everything wasn't, I don't know if I'm making sense. I hope I'm making sense. If it were more together, then I would have felt better about it all.
For sure. Thank you. Raquel,
Is it okay if I was gonna say, is it okay if I hop in? Yeah, Jessica, you said something that was very, very, very powerful. Because I do think that there is this like arrogant, like, stigma that some foster parents hold, where it's like this entitlement that it's like, I got you, I took you away from that bad like person. And I feel like and it is like a competition that where the foster youth kind of feels like they're getting pulled by the social worker, by the judge, by the advocate that's helping, by the foster parents. And I think that if it was more of a what is really at best for the child instead of everybody being in competition. I think that people uniquely coming together to work for the betterment and development of, like, you know, the actual foster youth, instead of you know, trying to demonize each other, you know. I think that would be, you know, something that would be a lot of beneficial, you know. Especially, it would have been nice to see, like, my foster parents didn't even know my mom. They didn't even know, like, you know, like what I thought of my mom, you know. They just assumed that, you know, because I was in foster care, that, you know, my mom was this bad person, and because I was angry because I was in foster care, that I was this bad kid. And that wasn't the case. I literally was just hurt, you know. And my mom wasn't like a bad mom, you know. I just kind of felt like she loved my brothers and sisters more than she loved me, you know, based off of the decisions that she made, like, you know. And so it's kind of unfortunate that, you know, the our biological parents are mad at the system is mad at our parents, but there needs to be like a common ground. I wish like my mom and all of us would have had like an intervention, instead of them focusing on my behavioral issues, you know, like they focused on like my mental health, the traumatic experiences that I went through, you know, how, whether or not I had food, whether or not I had a place that I felt safe enough to sleep, you know. Like social workers, they have like these big caseloads, you know, and they just like dropping kids off at any house and nobody is coming. Like, I feel like one of the things that make me so upset about social workers is that they call and let the foster parents know that they're coming. Like, you know, so it's like foster parents are cleaning up. They hiding the man that ain't supposed to be there behind the closet, that's sneaking in our rooms at night. Like, nobody never is like thinking about those type of stuff and those traumatic experiences. And so I think that when everybody really start thinking about what's at best for the child, like the real actual best interest for the child, all around, like, you know, what if impacts them right now will affect them in the future. Like, you know, I'm still dealing with some of the you know, trying to heal, so some of these, you know, generational traumas don't even pass on to my baby. She ain't even never experienced foster care, but if I don't heal the wounds that I have because of the traumatic experience that I had, who knows what type of you know, emotional trauma she'll have to deal with, or that'll be passed off to her. And I think about that stuff, like, you know, and it's sad. Like, I don't even want to take my baby to the hospital sometimes, because just as a former foster mom, I'm like, is they gonna try to take my baby? Like, you know. And so it's like all of these different things that we kind of deal with. And so thank you, Kim, because these are really great questions and a really good platform to discuss this stuff.
Well, I appreciate you sharing. I'm sure there's probably like the holidays are probably just bring out those thoughts more of, because it is supposed to be so family focused, of what am I passing on? What family traditions do I want to do? You know, how was it for me? So I commend you guys who are, you know, doing that hard work and parenting and trying to, you know, make a difference in that intergenerational trauma. So you guys are doing the work. How do you guys feel like the holiday experience in foster care still resonate and stay with you now? Tamara, I'm going to start with you.
I really also wanted to hop on what Raquel you said, and Jessica. Like, for me, I was oh my gosh, hearing you guys talk. For one, Jessica, it's kind of cool because on this panel, because we both had very different experiences, and I think a lot of people could learn from that. Because for me, I like hate my mom to her core. Like the whole just thinking of her, like I refuse to see her. Like I haven't seen her in 10 years and I refuse. She like calls me every day and I'm just like, decline for literally 10 years, and I just can't with her. But I think it's really good that you have the opposite experience and are able to talk about it so that people can hear both sides and really like take something from it, you know, because it's so important. Everyone's experiences are so valid. And Raquel, what you were saying, like I remember like, oh my gosh, the family that I lived with, the husband was cheating on the mom. And I remember every single day on my way to school, she would be crying in the car, like I was her therapist. I was like 8 and 9 at that point. And she's like crying, like telling me every single day. I remember she would get me like a Starbucks lemon loaf. I actually can't eat them now. I think I honestly probably have PTSD with it. But I remember she would cry every day and be like, you can't tell her, because she had another kid. And I had become sort of friends with her at that point. I remember for years, like I knew this big thing and I was never allowed to tell her. And I would just hear it every single day, repeatedly, just all this like baggage. And I remember like as a kid thinking like what the hell is happening right now? And then like the whole like being like pushed back and forth and like this guy's the bad guy and this one's the bad guy. Like, oh my gosh, like when I was a kid, my dad was like had his issues, but he wasn't like, I guess in retrospect he was better than her. And my mom would like, she literally brainwashed me into lying to like the court into saying that he was physically abusing us, and he actually wasn't. Like, he was very emotional, but he never like hit us or hit her. I remember one of the most fond memories around, it happened around Christmas too. Every year she'd get really bad, but she would like throw things at the walls, you know, and like hurt herself, and then like have me like write an essay to like the judge saying like, oh, my dad did this, but that never happened. And I remember like her telling me he was the bad guy, and then the court was trying to say that she was the bad guy, which, and then like she had been friends with a lot of the parents at my school, so then everyone would tell me that like my dad was the bad guy and that she was such a saint, you know, because she's a Christian or whatever. And I was just like, what? Like, and it was like this whole like back and forth growing up. And then as an adult and still being friends with some of the people I went to school with, a lot of their parents to this day try to tell me that like I'm wrong for like not forgiving her, and that I'm wrong for like not letting her into my life. And it's kind of crazy reflecting back on how that sticks with you, and how people that continue to see you, like people who see you go through it and then watch you come out of it, the people that are kind of always there, whether you're close to them or not, how everyone feels like they have an opinion about what your experience should be and like how you should act after. And I think it's really wild that people will come up to me that I like, old friends, and be like, yeah, like it's wrong that you like don't forgive her. And like, it's wrong that like you choose not to talk to her, you know, and it's wrong that like you blame her. And it's like, it's not even blaming. It's like, there's a difference between growth and like realizing you don't need the trauma in your life, you know? And it's just kind of crazy to see how people really try to like get in your business. So like, I don't know, like a lot of people who haven't experienced foster care and haven't experienced family trauma, like they don't, you know, like a lot of people just try to like write your story for you. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think that's something that's definitely frustrating. And I hope eventually, you know, I heal from that myself, because it's still a soft subject for me to this day.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. Jessica, how do your holiday experiences of foster care resonate with you still?
I feel like I'm being annoying because I keep talking about my mom, but but my mom lives in a different state now. She has 3 other kids that are my half siblings that live in Michigan. Really, all her family lives in Michigan, and I was the California baby she had. That was just kind of a whoops, you know, hi. And so she moved back to Michigan to be with my siblings and everybody, and I'm still in California. So I still have that sense of longing and missing her so much. My therapist actually just told me, she's like, you're not 12 anymore, like you're an adult, you can, you know, you have to separate that, like you can still miss your mom, but it's just so intense for me. And every time I talk to her, think about her, I just revert back to that kid who just almost like I still have a chance to be back with my mom, but I'm an adult, like you know, I'm living my own life. But particularly around the holidays, there's like a thing in the back of my head that's like, you can still be with your mom, you know, you can still go back with her. She's just so far. So I think it's just that sense of that deep sense of longing. I still sits with me, particularly around the holidays. The holidays is when it's reminded to me the most, because everyone's with their family, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should spend all the money I have to go see my mom, who didn't call me for a couple weeks. And I'm always the one that calls her too. So I think it's just, I get really obsessive around the holidays with my
It's
mom.
hard. Those things stay with you for forever. And so, yeah. And I'm glad I'm hearing you say that you're going to therapy. So, you know, therapy is a lifelong thing for many of us. And because there's just so many things that we have to deal with. So I'm glad you have that outlet.
A Home Within, I don't know if I've mentioned them before, but they give free therapy to former foster youth. So they're the ones that I'm seeing therapy through, which is really cool.
Awesome. Raquel, is there anything that really stays with you now from your holiday experiences?
Well, I kind of said it earlier, but I think like the one thing is just really the fact that I'm a mom now. And so it's just important for me to just do things differently to make sure that my daughter has a different experience than I did, and that it's a continuing experience that's consistent and in continuance, I guess. Yeah.
Sure. Awesome. Daniel, I just wanted to see if you're available to just kind of give us an idea of what the holidays were like for you, and any words of wisdom you want to offer any of our foster parents who are on today.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so busy, but that's what making the dreams come true is all about. I'm actually on set with CBS right now, filming a show, so I'm getting pulled in 100 different directions. But for me, the holidays have always brought about a seasonal depression. That's what a new term I learned recently, and I get in these like self-sabotage moments where I start to like isolate, and I get in my head a lot because I see all the people with their families, and I honestly wish I had family too. But this year is different. This year, okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna go to the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. Thanks. So then I would just, my last question is, what advice would you give to foster, adoptive, and kinship caregivers on navigating the holidays with the youth in their homes?
All right, can I finish really quick? I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I just they just started shooting, so I couldn't be louder than a whisper. But I was just saying, you know, for me, like seasonal depression is a thing, and it's really relevant because I get into these moments where I just want to isolate and I don't want to be with anybody. And I never ever decorate. I never ever do any of that. I don't even celebrate my birthday. So this year it's changed because I started to build community. I started to learn how to love myself. And I think that's what it's all about. When we get to a place where we love ourselves, the opportunities are endless, and little moments like celebrating Christmas or your birthday are even more important because you are grateful for the life that you have. You know, I deal with health issues, I deal with all this stuff. So for me, you know, I never really saw a future for myself before. I always said my expiration date was the age of 18. You know, I spent 7 years in and out of incarceration as a juvenile. I was homeless, you know, and I was continued to be exposed to these, I guess, I don't know what to say, these false identities that I created because I wanted to fit in with people. Now I get to be myself, whatever that version of myself is. If it's wearing a crop top, if it's wearing a tank top and a shirt, if I'm bald headed with long hair. And with all that being said, I say that because when you come to a place, okay, all right, I gotta go. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. Thanks, Daniel. Like I said, foster youth are always doing lots of different things. So we appreciate him taking a couple minutes to share with us today. So what advice would you give to foster, adoptive, and kinship caregivers on navigating the holidays with the youth in their homes? Raquel, what are your thoughts?
I say just really genuinely care. Like, don't overcompensate. Don't do too much. There was a really good question in the chat in regards to parents promising their kids gifts and not not being able to keep those promises, and what should a foster parent do? And I love that question because, you know, what I would say is, you know, buy the gift still, but present the present as something that came from both of you guys. So one, you know, the foster youth is not disappointed the fact that their parent couldn't show up, or won't relate their experiences to their parents always breaking promises. But then also it shows like the support and the morale that you want to build with the biological parent. But I just say be genuine about your approach. It's hard for foster youth to talk. I know sometimes it's like, wow, I'm trying to do my best. I'm trying everything that I can. I'm buying gifts. I'm trying to insert myself. But it's kind of hard. I said this to someone in the chat that it was hard for me connecting with my foster parents and my foster moms, especially my first foster home. I was abused by my foster mom, you know? And so, you know, I know we talk about like abuse from men in the foster system, but like my first abusive sexual experience came from a woman. A woman taught me about my body. And so, you know, when it comes down to that, you know, that experience and correlating that, you know, sometimes we don't want to talk about our experiences. Like I have all of that stuff bottled up, and I literally just start talking about this stuff as a 31-year-old woman. Like, so imagine at 14, 15, when my foster parents was trying to ask me what was wrong, or if they was even asking me if I was okay, and not assuming that I was angry or upset about what was happening in my world because of my experiences or whatever the case may be. But, just be genuine. If you're going to buy a gift, buy a gift. You know what I'm saying? If whatever you do for your biological kids, do for your foster kid, because they see that and it makes a difference. It definitely does. And just really, like, it's just really about showing genuine love. Like, at the end of the day, it's not about the presence, it's about making them feel wanted, making them feel supportive. And just knowing that, throwing out their experiences, either they're removed or they're abandoned or they're given away or taken away or moved, 7-day notice, whatever those experiences are. And it's hard. That's hard. And it's hard as a young kid to even be able to talk about, those things at that time, and so I think that that's something that you guys should consider as you're thinking of your approach and what best practices to approach foster youth during the holidays, during the regular days, during the summer days, all the days. So thank you.
You guys can drop questions in the chat and we'll try to get to them. Jessica, what advice do you have?
I think I say this often, like almost every time I'm asked about what advice I have for foster parents, regardless of if it's holidays or not. I feel like I say this, but it's important. Just don't take things to heart, because it's not about you. And I don't mean to say that like, it's not about you, but it's when it comes to the kid, what you do for them is not about making yourself feel good, but it's about what can benefit the kid. And on the other hand too, when the child is, not wanting to accept presents or feeling distant or having a tantrum or, acting out, it's also not about you. It's not because it's because of what's happening in here and here. And it's just anger towards things in general, not just you. So just don't take everything to heart, because that's going to make it so much harder for you to give and receive if you just take everything super personally. So just remember, it's not all about you.
Yeah,
I hope that brings comfort. I say it as a comfort, not a mean thing.
no, it's the truth. Like, you just have to parents have to do that. It's when you decide to have kids, it's not about you, it's about the kids, and you have to get them to adulthood. It's not their responsibility to get you through whatever you're getting through. So making it not about you is important. Tamar, how about you? What advice do you have?
I guess it would be just to be patient with us, definitely, because things take time, as things usually do, and to not, I guess, react poorly, because I feel like a lot of people, try to say once you're at an age you're mature. I feel like I know more immature adults than I do, honestly, people my age at this point, but I feel like being able to react appropriately, I feel like, and not overstepping, in the sense of like, if you're trying to be their parent, they might not be ready for that yet, so they're probably gonna get more angry. So I guess like trying to properly navigate the waters of the relationship and kind of treating it not as like even like you're their foster parent, but as kind of like how, like, if you really think like if you were in their situation, what would make you happy? It's not, I feel like so many times it's like, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? When it's like, well, literally all you have to do is just think about, hey, if I was going through that, what would make me as a small child feel better? And being a really young parent like I am, I have this really unique perspective, especially being a mom, because I remember like at school, like a lot of the times my son will do something funny, like he'll like hit his face like on himself and like make like funny expressions because he thinks he's like a robot, and like all the teachers are like, oh, that's like weird, they're kind of like, oh, is he okay, and like try to like coddle him, and I kind of just stand there like, you don't remember doing that when you were a kid? Like, I remember doing that. And like I remember like totally all the things that he does, that adults that are a lot older like, oh, that's weird, like making animal noises and stuff like that. I'm like, I vividly remember doing that because I'm so young, like I'm so close to his age. So it's kind of like I can so for me, like when people try to say like, oh, how do I be a better foster parent, or how do I do better in this relationship? For me, I'm like, what do you mean? It's easy. Just like think about how you were. But I know like over your life, the older you get to, it's kind of harder to put yourself back in that place, especially just because you have a whole, you know, your life's a lot longer at that point. But I feel like just trying your best to remember like how you would feel. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we all have the same basis of feelings. And it's not that complicated. So I feel like don't overcomplicate it, you know, like it's not that hard to be a good person and to do the right thing. So just kind of remembering that, especially during the holidays, will really make a difference in someone's life for sure.
Right. I wanted to just touch on a couple of other things too, because we haven't really talked about it. But cultural differences, I think, are super important. Not everybody celebrates Christmas. I come from a Catholic Jewish family, and we always celebrated Christmas. And for some reason, we never did anything with their Jewish traditions. And as an adult now, I'm like, why didn't we do that? You know, so I think if you have kids coming to your home who come from a different religion, a different culture, a different background, like it's on you to learn about their traditions and to try to incorporate those into those celebrations too. It shouldn't be all about a youth assimilating to us and our home and our family. It should be about us coming together, you know, and learning about each other and growing together as people. And I think that we all would be better to just to do that in our own lives, is to just learn and grow from each other into new things. So there's not any questions, but if you ladies want to touch on the cultural differences, feel free to jump in there as well.
Well, I kind of feel like you hit the nail right on the head. Hit the nail right on the head. Yeah, I said it right. Where if you do have, you know, different religion, different races in your home, you know, it is important to, you know, welcome, you know, all perspectives to your holiday traditions. And so I think that you really did like hit the nail on the coffin, or hit the nail on the head. I don't know how to say it, with that, because it is important. I remember going to foster homes where, you know, their family was different. It would have been nice if they would have asked me like, you know, what is a food that you like, or, you know, what is something that your family did, you know, for on Christmas that you really appreciated. Like every morning we woke up and we had cookies and we had you know, hot chocolate, and that was like the thing that we did. And so it's like, you know, I think that the asking those questions and really genuinely caring, because it's like it doesn't make no sense to ask the questions if you just gonna turn around and still do or operate you know, selfishly under your own, you know, agenda. And so asking the question and really genuinely taking into perspective what they're saying, and then really incorporating or finding a balance that makes sense to everyone, so that everybody can be happy and enjoy, you know, the holidays together.
Yeah. Jessica, I know you lived with a few different families. Did you have any cultural differences that you wanted to talk about?
You know, I wish I did. I think it's just the families I lived with didn't really like in foster care. The holidays weren't really a big deal because we were just the foster kids. So I never really experienced anything different. When I was adopted, they celebrated Christmas and they celebrated every holiday with their big families. That was different, but it wasn't really a cultural thing. It was more just like oh, look at all these people that are family now, apparently, and kind of things like that. So I don't, like Raquel said, I think you pretty much covered the more important parts of it. I I don't have too much more to add.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay. So does anybody have any closing thoughts before we sign off?
Yes, I do. Because I know we offered advice to the foster parents and stuff, but if there's like a former foster youth out there in the call, if you have a former foster youth, you know, living in your home, or current foster youth living in your home, just encourage them to, you know, be happy. Not really be happy or satisfied, because I mean, that's like, you know, give or take, but, you know, just encourage them to love themselves and just enjoy the experience for what it is. You know, like, yes, they're not where they want to be, or where they are or want to be isn't, you know, necessarily what, you know, they experience it to be, but it only gets better, it only gets better, especially when you get into your adulthood and you're able to buy your own presents and create your own traditions, and so I think that that's one important thing that the foster youth can take from this conversation.
Yeah, I think Daniel said it well when he said you have to learn to love yourself. And I think that's something that all of us need to do, is learn how to love yourself first, because we can't give if we don't love ourselves first. So I really appreciate everyone who's joined us today. You can find us on social media. You can find us online at fosteringfamiliestoday.com. Jessica, Tamara, and Raquel all have articles in Fostering Families Today from time to time, talking about different subjects. So I really appreciate them lending their voices today and in the publication, so that our foster families can learn and grow in their work too. So thank you so much for joining us today, and everyone have a happy holiday season.